Hey there, I'm Steve, and welcome to Jamsinentertainment. We're picking up where we left off on the D&D podcast. Jenny started talking about the Green Dragon. I'm going to give some context of my world. I basically put my stuff on top of the D&D world, and I made two different dragons, the metal and the elements, races towards each other. Jen, you started the story last, so why don't you pick up?
Sure. So we were trying to, I forget. Oh, there was a druid, and he was trying to rebuild a town, and he was telling us how he was having trouble because this dragon had taken over this tower. So we said we would go get rid of the dragon for him. I think Steve was a little scared when we said that because he thought his whole party was going to die. But we got there, and Aranu, who is our blue dragon, sort of stood in front of everyone else, and then Devoida, our gold dragon, stayed back where the green dragon couldn't see her. And we negotiated with the dragon and convinced him to relocate to a cave where he would be far more comfortable. And then we also promised we would go back to town and tell this group of dragon worshippers where he went so that they would go visit him and, he could eat them because he was hungry. And so we made all these promises and sort of carried on. A little later on, we were heading out of town, continuing on our way, and Devoida shared with the party, which none of us knew, that the green dragon had killed her fiancé. And, upon realizing who the green dragon was, she was like, we need to go kill the dragon. And we didn't, we were like, well, yeah, but we can't do it now because we're not strong enough and we'll all die. But she was upset and didn't feel that was the right answer. But we eventually came to an understanding that we will return to kill the green dragon eventually, once we're strong enough and we won't die. But in the meantime, she got very upset with us and sat under a tree while we were attacked by, I think they were the undead or something like that, and bats.
The necromancer?
Yeah, the necromancer called down some nasties, and she chose to sit out the fight. She was upset with us for not listening to her and not understanding her pain. We did not understand the full backstory, and that the dragon had killed her fiance, who had been.
Bridget tell it because she tells it the best.
Yes.
So, should I give a little bit of context to my character?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So I would say that the story that I'm about to tell was probably a little bit outrageous for the scenario, but I think in terms of my character, it wasn't necessarily out of character. My character has what she believes to be a real cat, but what the rest of the group believes is an imaginary cat that just hangs out on her shoulder. And
it's a ghost cat.
Exactly. And there's a couple other things that my character does that are a little bit unique. When we fought or did something with horses, I made the group all matching horse capes, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, we came across some dead horses.
And we still wear the capes. Yeah. They're very useful.
And we still wear the capes. Yes.
The entire party.
Yeah. So, just to kind of give some context to the character kind of has a, more creative sense for the, fashion, a little bit more dramatic, maybe a little bit histrionic, those sort of tendencies, which kind of makes her fun.
It also makes her a very effective fighter.
Yes. Yeah. So in that situation, she had decided to share with the group the full details about a romantic tragedy that had occurred in her life that involved this dragon. So what it was, she was deeply in love with another dragon named Tom. And she and Tom, on their wedding day at the altar, Tom's brother Sam, who was also in love with Devoida, came in and killed Tom. And so
to be fair, he ate Tom.
Rest in pieces, I would say. So anyways, Devoida has held this in her heart for a long time. And she was with her teammates who she'd been working with for almost a year at that point.
Quite a long time.
Anyways, Devoida felt that the rest of her crew, gang, what is it called? Posse, yeah. Steed, should have had her in that scenario. And that logic and reason did not fit into that equation. And I think that was sort of why it was so outlandish but also fun, was that in Devoida's mind, it was absolutely appropriate that they attack and kill this dragon, whereas everyone else, except for one other player, believed that it was the wrong thing to do. I will let that player identify themselves.
Hi.
I'd just like to point out that the tiefling, she was on board for killing the dragon. Once we're strong enough to kill the dragon. There's no point in running in and getting killed, because then you don't actually get to kill them. You don't accomplish your end goal.
I mean, the plan was to run in and yell Leroy Jenkins and hope for the best, but unfortunately, that didn't work out.
But you know, there's some basic math at play, and you know, statistically speaking, we were all going to die.
But we had
However,
numbered.
However, when we get a few more levels up, then we won't die. We might get the crap kicked out of us in the process, but in theory, we should all live. And then we can kill the dragon and make him feel intense pain.
But who knows when we'll see the dragon again, and who knows what that dragon will do to us. And
To be fair,
yes,
he wasn't exactly trying to leave when we found him the first time. What makes you think he's leaving the second time?
I was going to say, he's going to be in the cave eating his worshippers.
Well, dragons are creatures of habit, and they're also renowned for their, dare I say, laziness?
It's we'd rather be sleeping than going out exploring.
but
Yeah.
I think this situation, as funny as it was, right, because it was sort of this burst of like absurdity in the middle of the game, and I think one of the reasons why we all found it funny was that it was just sort of so outlandish and didn't really make sense, and it was an elaborate backstory that I believe had a music video that the character had imagined or felt that happened, including the different camera angles. But I think this situation kind of speaks to, and this could be something that we talk about, is the different styles of players.
And that's where you bring in all the disparate elements together and they form a rather interesting party. But yeah, that's where the fun is. Of course, not being eaten is also a nice thing.
Well, I think everyone has survived since then.
Oh, well, yeah, since then, Root died.
Entirely, yeah. Root.
Right. But I'm saying since that incident. And I think that we could all probably sit here and say that we probably would have not all of the players or characters, I should say. Right?
Yeah, I think realistically, given how many hit points a dragon has, we all would have died, like all of us, because even if every single one of us had like rolled a nat 20, still wouldn't have been able to kill the dragon with one round of us. Like the dragon probably could have hit us with enough force to kill most of us, if not all of us. Like eventually, we all would have died. We might have put up a good fight. It might have been a valiant effort.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well,
But
the dragon was strong enough to bat its wings and push people back. So there's that.
Well, it kind of would have been a slight disadvantage.
But it would have been a very honorable death, because
it would have been a completely honorable death.
the murder of Tom,
Well, we wouldn't necessarily be.
Devoida's fiance.
Well, to be
This is
fair,
true.
we wouldn't necessarily be avenging.
I don't know this, Tom.
'cause we
Why I
did that.
gotta die for him?
I would also like to point out, just briefly, we had the back and forth, the in character conversation around how we can't run off and kill the dragon right now. We have to wait and come back a while before we learned the backstory.
Mhm.
So we didn't completely understand why Devoida was so hellbent on killing this dragon until a good 5 minutes into the moment.
So I would say that probably the reason why Devoida didn't share the backstory was because the player that has created Devoida probably was making up that backstory as a reason as to why he fights the dragon. And I think that Devoida was probably trying to, the character that plays Devoida was, or what was it called? Whatever. Anyways, she was trying
Devoida
to figure
was
out
trying
a good reason as to why she wanted to spontaneously and impulsively kill a dragon and add a little bit of drama and fun to the scenario.
To our inevitable.
There you go.
It was all on the fly. Nicely done.
It was. It was a very fun moment of just
I
like
was
straight
real
up
impressed.
role playing.
It was definitely
cool.
very immersive. Very immersive.
And I think, like I was saying earlier, like it speaks to the different types of players, right? Because in our group, we have all different types of players. We have people who came out of the womb playing D&D, like Paul. We have Armen, who's played it, was the president of the
Science Fiction Club.
And helped run it.
And deposed within 1 year, but that's another story.
And then you have like newer players like Jenny and I. And I think even as newer players, Jenny and I have different sort of approaches. And I think that Jenny likes to go really by the book and like enjoys like working within the rules of D&D. And I think for myself, I enjoy it, but I also find, and this might be controversial, but I find that some of the rules are really constricting and limiting. And so that I think is probably one of the reasons why some of these scenarios have popped up, like the imaginary cat and the, risking the entire campaign for a pretend wedding that got destroyed.
Attacking twice.
I don't know if anyone else wants to speak on that. But
Scientifically speaking, physics-wise, you can't do it if it's heavy enough with the velocity. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You could cut right through somebody and right into someone else. It's possible.
And that was an awesome thing. So because Devoid is a dragonborn and she has she can rage out if she's been hit.
You can do it.
And so Bridget was like, well, I want to take my battle axe and I want to slice through these two guys that are in front of me.
Battle axe.
And
heavy.
I allowed it.
Yeah, and she's
based
strong.
on the fact that she was berserking.
Rolling 2 dice.
Yeah.
She's berserking, and you let her roll 2. You let her basically count the 2 d20s.
Right. If both of them hit, they both hit. But...
Right, and like if only one hit, then she only cut through one of the guys and not both of them. And it was awesome. You gave us that flexibility, which was cool.
Yeah, and I think also like some of that is a credit to Steve as the DM too. Like in terms of when some of us have said like, okay, we want to try this. Like we know that it's probably not going to work, but we want to try this different approach. Or can we do this? And a lot of times, if it's within a certain level of reason, Steve generally lets us at least try it. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Well, thank you.
Well, it's kind of like the Pirates Code from Pirates of the Caribbean. They're more like guidelines than actual rules.
More like guidelines.
Like the idea of parlay or something.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's the Green Dragon was a fun event that I think was pretty memorable for all of us.
And we can always revisit that.
That's right. We just have to go back to the cave.
Devoida doesn't want to open that wound again.
The story's not done yet, so we'll probably be back here when the story is done.
Yeah, we'll revisit it at a later date for sure.
I don't know. I'm interested because I think our next target is to get to the island with all the dragons, right, and get that stone.
We're on that island now.
Currently, you're fighting a bunch of lizard men on islands.
Is it the Dragon Island or is it a different island? Oh, maybe it is the Dragon Island.
Turtle.
Yeah, we're at Turtle. I
have to revisit the journal and remember what we were trying to do.
And we got to get that stone.
We got to get four stones, right?
3 stones.
3 stones.
Oh, is that how much you weigh? 3 stones, Steve.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if anyone else wants to talk about the different types of players that we have, but I think that's something that's kind of interesting because we do have such a range.
Well, I will. Perhaps I'll speak about my character, a half-elf named
Manos
Corvina. I don't know why.
So good, he forgot his name.
But I'm probably one of the more duller members of the because I kind of always am like my motto is discretion is always the better part of valor. That's just me. Pretty.
You killed the bad guy in one strike. It was pretty badass.
Well, true. Sometimes I do like just decide to go against my better judgment, and usually it actually works out for the best. So that's always a good thing. Yes, I did. There was a memorable moment where I single-handedly killed the main boss of the fight that we were in, unintentionally almost, but it still worked out.
I think Jenny mentioned that on the last podcast.
She did.
Oh, yeah. It was a great moment.
Yeah, I used what was it? I believe Manos was using his divine powers to truly set the.
You smote him, quite
I
literally.
smote him. Yeah, I used my god came down and just straight up like smushed the guy. Anyway, It was a fun moment. It was indeed enjoyable.
I will say it's been fun while we're fighting the lizard people to have Aaron actually be able to use his I forget if it's lightning or fire.
It's lightning,
The
yeah.
Fire blast.
Because like you kept wanting to use it, but like the blowback would have killed the rest of us. You weren't able to. And now we're
Austin,
lizard
you're
guys out in
getting
the
more
open.
strategic about that, which is
Yeah.
good. Because you're not killing the entire party that way.
I refuse to kill you guys.
I appreciate that.
That's a
I
very
gotta
nice.
be the same way with my other D&Ds that I'm doing on Second Life. I'm training a bunch of students, and they're all overpowered like crazy. So sometimes it's like, okay, fate of the planet for a moment, and all we were trying to teach you is to go up a bunch of steps. Can you all chill? God,
Shatter the core of the planet for the love of it.
don't turn into a black hole.
Create a new nebula.
This is part 1 of the Green Dragon story. Stay tuned for part 2. I don't know when it's going to be because COVID. If you would like to find Austin, he's on DeviantArt, RNU1. Thank you all for joining me. If you like what you saw, like it. If you think other people like it, share it. If you really liked it, hit the subscribe button or follow us on Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcast, Podbean, and Google Podcast. Thank you for watching and listening, and live your imagination.